Okay, welcome everyone to RPM Academy and our 1 hour webinar where we're going to be featuring Famla AI, an exciting technology that we've had the privilege of being able to meet with Joel, who's going to be our presenter today, as well as get a pretty good understanding of their product offering. It's well in step with all of the artificial intelligence, agentic AI, all of the new tools that are emerging very, very rapidly, but more than that, evolving. So I want to thank you all for attending, whether you're from municipalities or from healthcare, manufacturing, virtually any industry sector. You all face the same reality, is that we're going through a massive amount of change right now, and it's getting harder and harder to actually keep up. So we thought it'd be well timed to share with you a little bit about these new emerging technologies, part of a series of webinars that we're doing. Today we're going to explore a very simple but powerful technology that helps to answer a question. What if AI could function as Famla AI, and Joel might say, as a junior Lean Six Sigma consultant, helping us understand and improve processes at speed? So I'd like to introduce Joel. And before we get started, Joel, perhaps you could just share a little bit about your story and your background with Famla AI.
Yes, thank you, Rod, for having me, and hi to everyone. Thank you for your time. So about myself, I'm a master black belt, Lean Six Sigma master black belt, certified by the International Lean Six Sigma Institute. I see John Dennis in the crowd of participants. Hi, John. Um, I've done like transformation and Lean Six Sigma programs in various industries, from tech, logistics, mostly in construction, in all stages of construction, from planning consent to detailed design, working for a general contractor, working for subcontractors, and doing fit out, commissioning, decommissioning works, and also have done a little bit of manufacturing. And so what we've seen, although these environments are very different, doing also something I forgot to mention is also doing a CI, continuous improvement, not only in the shop floor, but also in office and administrative settings, right? Also some finance processes. And so wherever you're doing continuous improvement, and that's how I guess the Famla uh, like where we intersect is that wherever you're doing continuous improvement, be it in the shop floor, in an office environment, I think like understanding how the work is done is critical. It's almost like, as you know, if you look at the DMake or the PDCA, as soon as you've defined the scope of what you want to improve or transform, then the next step is really to understand how the work is done, because you cannot really improve what you don't understand. And all over for different industries, the challenges were the same. Like how the process, the understanding that at scale can be slow. And so I think that's where Famla kind of brings something different, where the value proposition is to enable that at scale and at speed.
Fantastic, Joel. And before we get started, you mentioned a few industry sectors. We've got a lot of representation in this webinar today from all kinds of industries, as I mentioned, government, healthcare, manufacturing, service related. For those of people that are intending working in any industry sector, what kinds of processes do you think are especially well suited for this type of technology?
Yeah, and thank you, Rod, for the question. One thing that I want to mention is that like process is a big word to see how things is done. So if you think about it, process is a universal language, right? If you in the Lean Six Sigma world, we kind of translate everything into a process. And so if you think about it, the way you prepare in the morning, to get to work, it's a process, right? You do a series of tasks like towards a goal, which is like to get to work, right? So like these are discrete events that can be summarized as a process. So it can be in your personal life, it can be at work, preparing a report. It's a process, right? Someone is supplying the data, someone is analyzing the data, and someone is going to consume the data, right? So the process is not only a shop floor and manufacturing thing. Like process is the way how work gets done, how the value flows, or how a series or maybe just one person or several people work together to achieve a goal. So process is a universal language that permeates all sectors, industries, functions, and that's where I think, and that's the power of continuous improvement as well, right? Because as continuous improvement practitioner, we're able to apply that skill set not only to manufacturing but to healthcare, to municipalities, to engineering. And that's because we're able to translate what's happening in those industries into the process. And from there, once we have that universal language, we're able to apply the tools that we know in Lean Six Sigma.
Well, thank you for that. And everyone's here to actually have a look at the product itself, the technology that you and the Famla team have developed. So what we'll do is I'll get you to switch on sharing, Joel, and you can take us through a little bit of an overview of what your product does. And I'm pretty sure the people on the call will be able to connect with it in terms of opportunity perhaps to explore it further in terms of the work they're doing. Personally, I see the amount of massive, rapid, disruptive change that we're seeing. A lot of it, yes, is technology driven, but it's not the only source of change. And we're riding a huge wave of change right now. So I see the product from my exposure to it is really one of the ability to rapidly enterprise map the entire organization, which typically is unheard of. We would never have been able to do that. I mean, I was fortunate to work on a large assignment a few years ago, and it was about 18 months it took us to do a complete end-to-end enterprise mapping exercise. And a lot of that time was consumed in trying to understand the current state. I only wish today, back then, we had the technology that's available today to focus more on getting the current state as quickly as possible and then moving all of our effort and resources into future state design. Anyhow, I'll let you take it over and thank you for being here and sharing this with us.
No, thank you, Rod. So I don't know if you see my screen. Yes. And so this is the tool. And as Rod mentioned it, and this is my favorite quote, it's like, I also consider this tool as a junior Lean Six Sigma associate that you will have in your team. And so the aim is not to replace experts, the experts that you are, right? The aim is to work alongside you, either to facilitate some of the work, collecting insights with our interviews, or so this first feature is about having an AI-led interviews. The AI will go out, interview the people, and draw the maps automatically, right? And so it's almost like you had a junior intern like an intern in your team or a junior associate, and you say, you know what, we have this assignment, we have this project. I've done the scoping with the leadership team. We know we want to improve the order to cash process. Yeah, like go and interview, go and prepare for the Kaizen event, right? Go and prepare for give me an as-is process map so that I can prepare for the Kaizen event. This is the kind of uses we want to do. So as I'm going through this presentation, don't look at it as, oh, this thing is gonna, replace me, or this thing is not good as good as a master black belt. More like, how do we work alongside, right? And so the first, maybe I'll start with the end, right? I'll start with the end and maybe show you an output, showing you an output of like what's the end product in terms of this tool. And so I want to show you first one of an example of a process map that was generated by the tool, right? So you can see here, you have the swim lanes with the different stakeholders, and then you have basically all the actions and all the decision points and everything. So this is a map as generated by the tool, right? So this wasn't touch. This wasn't, there was no edit to this. So this was purely generated by the tool based on the process that I showed. And this is a healthcare process. So part of it was in French, so you can see why there's some like French word here. But once you have this process map done by the AI, so one thing I wanted to highlight is that you can easily update it, right? So your intern goes out, does the process map, come back to you, and then you're like, okay, um, now you're in position of, okay, I want to switch, so you can easily switch things. You don't need to, you can double click. So you change it as if you were using Visio or PowerPoint, very easy to drag and drop things, and move around things. Okay, so we've seen the kind of the output. Now how do we get there, right? How do we get there? And so there's a couple of things to get to the process map. The first thing I mentioned is the AI led interview. The second option is if you already have an SOP, right? You have a procedure, standard operating procedure. You already have done interviews, or you've done interviews by Google Meet or Zoom. You have a transcript, and you want to easily generate a process map. You can also do that, right? You just put in the words, and the AI will kind of give you. Or you can also go from an image, right? So if you have an image in a document of a process map, and you're like, okay, you can also upload it. It will take that image of that process map, convert it into our format, and you'll be able to move and make some changes. So the other feature that you can have as well is, once you've generated those process map, you can add some information. I will show you how we can do that. And then once you have that data rich process map, you're able to do analysis, right? Simple analysis such as what are the ways, what are the opportunities to automate, that kind of stuff. So you can ask like simple question rooted in Lean Six Sigma practice, right? Maybe if I just do, we discussed this with Rod, I'll do like a simple process live. And so if you wanted to do like a process, right, I will do one that is very, I would say all companies have it, right? Which is like employee onboarding, right? So if I do like staff onboarding, and then the purpose is really to get the new staff, ready to do their job, perform their job. And here I might take, we have a couple of industries. I'm not sure because I only shared the tab, so I'm not sure you can see all the industries that are available within the tool, but you have everything from government, legal, transportation, manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, insurances. Like there's energy, education, real estate, retail. There's lots of industries, and basically why you select the industries is really to route the interview into some of your of the jargon that you have. So here I'll just pick healthcare. I could have taken something else. And so once you launch the interview, this is the screen that you have. And so the first part of the interview is really about setting the scope, right? It's like, think of it in the Six Sigma language as almost you're performing a SIPOC, right? supplier, input, process, output, and customers. And so we basically put the language of the cyborg into a language that is very understandable by everyone, right? And so here the key roles in the cyborg will be the suppliers and the customers of within your process. And so in this case, you will have like the new employee, you will have HR and the hiring manager, right? And so in the cyborg, right, you have the P of the cyborg, and basically you will say new employee signs the contract, HR, HR arrange for start date, and hiring manager provides expectation or something like that on the job, something. Okay. So again, like it's the cyborg. Remember, in the cyborg you have the I, which is like the input, and so here we want to know the first input. We want to know the last. We're gonna also know the last input. What formally triggers the start of this process. And again, it's like I would say like sign contract, sign employment contract. So that's the signal. What clearly marks the completion is like, I don't know, employee sends his first email as an employee, sends first work email. I'm just making this up as I go. And then also it's also important to understand like what's in out of scope, and maybe we want to say like salary negotiation is not part of is out of scope. Details about the work to be performed is out of scope. And then, okay, so now we've set the scope, right? It's almost like you had again, remember this quote. You have an intern, you say, hey, I want you to go and map this process. This is where it starts, this is where it ends, these are the people. And now the next thing here you can see with the checklist, now we want is to invite stakeholders, right? This is a collaborative tool, right? And as Lindsay Sima would say, the people doing the work are much more are more able to tell you how the process is done, and this is what we want to do here. So now the next step is to invite representative for these different roles, right? And you can do that. You can say yes or no, right? So if I say, for example, here, no, I don't want to invite a new employee, right, for XY reason. And then the question will be, okay, so you don't want to invite someone you don't want to get insight from a real new employee that has gone through the process, right? Can you answer this question about the new employee role? You might say yes, you might say no, right? Depending on if you think that's important. That's up to you. That's how you run your project, right? We give you the option. You can take it or not, right? So if you say no, what will happen is that the AI will deduct the role of the new employee out of all the information provided by everyone else, right? Because the AI at the end of the day takes the answers from all the stakeholders and put them together. And if they're like a missing piece, for example, I'm going to say no to the new employee here. It's going to assume the role of the new employee based on the answers from the HR, for example, right? So do you want to invite the HR? I'm going to say yes. And then here, I can invite one or more people as HR, right? Maybe your HR work differently because of due to experience or due to legal framework, right? One is in working in Canada, one is working in the US, very different experience, and maybe and one is in Europe, right? So maybe you want to have different perspective from your HR, and so you might invite not just one person, right? So if you think about it, and this is the power of the tool compared to the traditional method, is that in the traditional method, any incremental interview that you do will actually lengthen the time you have to discover the as is process. While here I can actually invite, I would say, unlimited people for the same role, right? Because the AI will interview them in parallel, right? Because it's done asynchronously. I, interviewing one, two, three people, if they are doing it at the same time, is the same time as interviewing one person, right? For in the timeline. And so yeah, I'm gonna invite okay. So the invite is sent, and so this person receive an email saying, "Hey, you've been invited to come and join this process mapping session. Do you want to join?" So again, remember we mentioned that there were three roles. So one we say we are not inviting, the second one we invited, and then they say here, would you like to invite the hiring manager? Again, you can say same, you can say yes and no. And so that's the, if I say yes here, would you like to invite? I'll say yes, right? And then I will invite okay. And so now I've kind of, again, I've defined the people I want to invite. They receive the invitation. They will log in in due course, fill in the thing. And then the AI continues and say, hey, do you have any pain point, any frustration on this process? As process owner, and I might say, I mean, here I'm not thinking about anything. I'll say like nothing from my side, for example. Anything important that we've forgotten, maybe, and then I'll say no, all good, and that's it, right? So imagine in the short time span of this demo, this is the only thing you will have to do as practitioner, right? So this is you commissioning the AI to go and do the assays, interview the people. So this is in, I don't know how long this lasted. This was what, maybe 5-10 minutes. I'm not even sure. That was it, right? This is the as much as you will have to do to set up the tool and to start mapping your process, right? The rest is kind of, from now on, the AI is doing its own thing. You'll be able to see the status here of like how people are doing with the interview. So you will see like which one, how many interviews are, if people have started, this will kind of lighten up. When they complete, you will be informed, and once the process map are available, because they've completed the interviews, and the AI has, like, sorted out, you get an email saying, hey, your process map is available, and you'll be able to just click it and see what I've shown previously, and you'll be able to do other operation, right? I don't know, Rod, are we taking questions from here, or are we waiting for the end?
What I'd like to do is we're reserving a lot of time at the end for question and answer, as long as people can stay on the call. But this has been a great introduction. A couple of questions. I mean, what would it look like then for the person is when they join to in the interview? The
Exactly. Yeah.
technology is interviewing them. What does that feel like?
Okay. Let me show it to you. I'll have to log out and join with another account. Okay, so normally the other person will just receive what the other person will receive will be an email. So this method of logging in, normally if you just click on the email link, you just click on the email link, you should, you know, right away uh, go exactly to where you need to be, right? But because here I'm not going through my email box, so I'm kind of, you know, going around. Wait.
So while you're doing that, a couple of things come to mind. So for me, if I was looking at a scalable enterprise level type of initiative, so very, very large in scope, and your mention of the SIPOC, for instance, is you do have to have a basic understanding of your business. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, of
It would
course.
be hard to come in with the technology, although we're headed in that direction, where it starts out with a blank sheet of paper and figures it out from there. So you've got to give it a head start. So what came to mind is there is a project preparation piece to this.
Of course.
And you have to have a basic understanding of the high level processes. You've got to be able to establish the parameters and the scope of the project undertaking. And what kind of flashed into my mind is almost like a checklist and a template, and saying, let's fill in this template because this is going to be our groundwork to plug into Famla AI to be able to have it run with the scope of processing, process mapping. The other piece is part of project preparation, and of course, is communication and change management. So, advanced knowledge to the organization of what they're going to be seeing, what their participation will look like, what to expect. So, all of that front end preparation planning still needs to take place. What we're looking at is hitting the ground running with this technology. And instead of having a wide, a huge number of workshops and consultants all trying to put together what the current state is, it's actually just doing that for you and in parallel in many cases. So the timeline to complete the initial current state assessment is much quicker, and you can then move into the validation piece. Uh, that really does involve maybe getting people in a room because there is a change management element to that. But what I'm
Mm,
liking is that you can get faster into, now that we've agreed on what the current state is, let's focus on that future state. And once again, change
exactly.
management, project management all combined. Anyhow, I just wanted
Yeah.
to add that in while you were getting ready to
No,
tell us
amazing.
what it
I
looks
also
like.
wanted to show something. I mean, it wasn't planned, but I had to do something, and I think it was super interesting. It's also that in with the tool, you have different workspaces, right? So, especially for people that have working that are consultants and you intervene with different companies, you don't want to mix processes of companies, right? So you might have different workspaces, or even in the same company you might want different workspaces per department or division or location. And so this is one example where I'm able to change, I'm able to switch between almost like two environments with like different processes, and this environment are kind of isolated, right? And which is great if you don't want to mix processes from different people. Okay, so if we continue to see the perspective, we are continuing that journey, and so now we are at the this is the perspective of someone logging in, right? Someone receive an email, they click on the link, boom, this is the screen they see, right? They don't see the all the changing environment and whatever whatnot. That's for you if you want like segregation, like not mixing data from different companies together and stuff. But this person is just like a staff at the company. They've been invited to map a process. They just log in, and here they say, okay, you've been invited. This is their role. This is the process. And also here they have kind of a progress bar of some of the things we're going to do. So we're gonna map set our sequence. We're gonna identify decision points. We're gonna, uncover irritants, any pain points. We're gonna review alignments. And so what we mean by reviewing alignment is that at some point the AI will look at what this person had said and compare it to what others had said to make sure that there's no major discrepancy, right? I mean, the aim is not to replace that alignment workshop or the Kaizen that you will do later. But here is really to facilitate as much as possible the work. So when you go into the Kaizen event, you can progress directly to what's the to be. Like, because the to be is about choices, right? Like there's many options possible, and then as a group you decide, hey, this is what we want to do. So we want you to focus more on the to be part, the change management part, and this kind of understanding as is, this is gonna do it, and these are the different steps. And so as I answer this, the AI is gonna react, right? It's gonna react to the different um my answers, and it's going to follow as well this framework to just understand what's happening, right? So if I just do it online, okay, so as HR, what am I responsible for? um you know I'm responsible for the I'm responsible to make sure the employment contract is it's in line with regulation. I don't know. I've never been in HR, so forgive me if I'm saying like with regulation. I'm just saying. Okay, so within that scope, like, what's the first action? So here, what happened here is that that person was not there when we were scoping, was not present when the process owner was scoping the staff onboarding, because staff onboarding can mean different things to different people. So what we do here is that we remind this person, okay, you joined this interview, this is your role, this is the process, and this is the scope. This is the scope of what we mean by staff onboarding, and what do you do within that scope, right? And so it will say, I send, we are starting from when the contract has been signed, right? So this is the scope. So the contract will be signed, okay, I file the signed contract into our HR system. And so what is the next action? So this is like, we're trying to understand the sequence. What is the next action? I inform the hiring manager and the new employee of the start date, something like that. Of the start date. What is the next action? When the start date is there, I welcome the new employee, and I don't know, and read the company policy. I'm just making this up as people. And read the company's policies. Okay, what is the next action? I bring them to the. I introduce them. We work to the manager's desk, something like that. We work together to the managers, to the hiring manager's desk.
So what we're seeing here, Joel, is it's interactively interviewing, and it has a dynamic response based on what
Yes.
my response, the interviewee, is to the question being posed.
Exactly. So
Right,
there's actually multiple things that happen. So here, obviously, I'm the first, I'll say, stakeholder to answer question. But the questions are also, the AI keeps track of the context
right.
of what was said by the process owner. Remember the scope, the process owner or the project manager or the master black belt set the tone and the scope. So that considered in the question, so the AI knows where to stop, right?
Right.
So the AI one, because the AI knows that this is the scope, it will stop answering question here, right? And because here, I mean, in terms of alignment, they won't have much, because what I said, there was nothing controversial. But you can imagine that with a process that has a lot of people, let's say, and you start inviting 12, 10 people, or the process is a standard, and someone says, oh, I give the thing to Rod, and Rod say I receive it from John. Then the AI is like, wait, hang on, like, who's providing the thing to John? Because, like, I'm receiving different signals here. So you ask to clarify the input. But I mean, this is a very straightforward, very simple process. You can see it's very linear. There's not I didn't say things that could go wrong and that kind of stuff. But you will see where I can we can input that, right? Uh, okay, so what are the pain point, frustration? I don't know. Candidate, new employees sometimes do not show up. Sometimes do not show up for the first day at work. I'm just making this up. Uh, in that case, I don't know. In that case, I cancel the contract. I'm just a bit harsh, but I mean, cancel the employment contract. Right?
So I think everyone's,
Um,
Joel, so I
say
think
that again.
everyone's got a good sense that there's an
Yes,
interactive interviewing process that can happen simultaneously. So at the end of the interview process, once all the interviews are gathered, what's the next step in terms of we're heading to that destination, which is a draft current state process flow map or
yes,
whatever diagram would be appropriate. So I'm just looking at our time here to make sure we leave time for some Q&A and I know that you plan on giving people free access to the tool to play, so
indeed.
we'll cover that later as well. But at a high level, where do we go from here, so to speak?
Yeah, so I'm gonna open a process and just show. Once you have a process map, right? So in that other case, we had a lot of people that were invited. We didn't go through. So once you have this process, what you can do is first to check the accuracy. There's a couple of ways of doing that. The second thing that you can do is also to add data onto your process map, right? So we try to almost do like a mix of process map and VSM. So you can add lead time, defect rate. So what we do is that we don't collect this data at interview, because what we really focus on is getting an accurate process map as possible. Once you have that, you can add layers and layers upon layers of information. This is just a sample, right? There's a lot more possible. And if you need even more, feel free to reach out. It can be added. And so once you add that data, you can do an analysis, right?
Right,
And so basically, this analysis, think of it as you're basically interrogating the data, right? Because the AI did the interview, you were not there, right? Now you have that, and then you can run a small analysis. You can ask, I don't know, like of course here there's not a lot of data. The more data you provide, of course, the more the analysis is going to be um we'll say grounded into
right.
into facts,
And
right?
you can be selective in terms of the data elements that you add. And
Of
what I'm
course.
seeing, and again, just from my experience, is that So you've done a lot, you've had AI do a lot of the heavy lifting to get you to that current state, which still needs to be validated. Even though it's done some reconciliation, it's identified contradictions where someone says they do A, yet the same function someone says they do B. But at the end of the day, you've got a reconciled current state draft process. At that
Yes.
point, I could see the value of bringing people into either a virtual or a physical environment and saying, this is what you told us, let's go through it. And then we can start looking at moving, adding additional steps that might have been missed because it functions now like any other electronic process flow map. You can add, you can move things around, all that stuff. And perhaps you can even start getting some of the data to start populating those data boxes.
Yes.
So
Indeed.
once you've got that validated process map at whatever level is appropriate, what would you see as being the next step after validation, whether it's done in a virtual environment or is done in a physical brick and mortar workshop?
Mm.
What would you
I,
see happening next?
I think like this is where so you can use the tool next to help you with the brainstorming around like what could be done based on what you're trying to achieve. And I think this is where the practitioner, the Lean Six Sigma practitioner, come into hand, right? Because this tool, what we're trying to do is really to take the part the that can be automated, but ultimately as practitioners we're still accountable for the design of the to be. We are still accountable for change management, right? Because if we have the as is, what we're really good at is the as is. We can help you with analysis to kind of brainstorm some of the root cause and some of the things that can be done. But again, AI might propose you three things that can be done, but because you are there, you know the people, you know the organizational culture, you are much more able to decide which of the solution is possible or is implementable. I don't know if that's an English word, but possible in that environment. And that's where you need change management. That's where you need stakeholders. And so I think in the age of AI, where practitioners are going to be heading out, I think AI is going to make us more human, right? By that I mean that things, soft skills like change management, understanding the organizational culture, understanding who are the change agent, like all this able to where are the pocket of resistance to change and why, and like how to get them to be on our side and everything. So that will be a much more that will be a very 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 valuable skills, because we cannot just be now people that are applying frameworks, right?
Right,
So AI is going to be able to do that, right? It's already able to do that, right? Today, this AI is already able to map and performance analysis, right? Performance analysis that you need. Like if you feed in all the data as like given the Pareto, tell me this and that, it's able to give you that,
right.
right?
Yeah, so
So the question will be now as practitioners will be, what's the business objective I'm trying to get, and how do I, given the culture, the organizational culture, and the people, the leadership, the vision by the leaders, like how do I steer the organization toward the to be.
right. Yeah, so I think that kind of answers the question around the future of work. Is this going to replace me? And a lot of the times it's about how's this going to change my work? And I see this as a tool that's going to free up capacity in the individual or at the collective level, whether in consulting internally, externally. It's freeing up capacity to focus remove some of the administrative burden and focus more of your talent on more value added work. So I think that's a good thing whenever that happens. I Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, or are we at a point where we can? I know that you were going to be able to provide free access for people to play, experiment.
Yes, indeed. There's gonna be a promo code, right, for
Right.
RPM and Famla that'll be sent by email. And there's gonna be, so we already have an extra like free credit, but there's gonna be even more extra for people
Yeah.
that are
So
attending this workshop. So you can try the platform and I guess like just make your own opinion of how it works.
yeah, for anyone interested in this, I could see doing a small pilot is set up an account, get together with a few people of like mind, keep it very small to start, and take a very small process and say we're going to pilot this to see what it looks like. Take that small process, send out the interviews, and then work as a small team from start to finish in the pilot to see what the lesson were and what the benefits were. And if it's working for you, then you can scale it up to whatever level you need within the organization. Now might be a good. I know there's a ton of stuff. People are looking at the screen. I mean, the discovery process, generate, invite team members. There's an admin panel. I know that you provide a lot of help and support that way. So
Yes.
we can't cover it, but I think it was to just give people a taste today, a flavor of what the ice cream looks like, and then they can do their own discovery as well as follow up with you and the team at Famla directly. So I would like, we've opened up the chat session. Gary Newberry's got a great question. Gary, a great friend of mine. He's a retail supply chain expert. I just also found out that he's an amazing dancer. Just came back from a competition where he won awards with his partner in Montreal. So congratulations to Gary for that. Gary's asked the question, how does the AI keep a context? When I use general large learning models, they seem to forget rather quickly what has been worked on or shared or discussed.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing question, and I think like this is also our secret sauce, right? And this is why, and this actually gives me an occasion to actually speak about something that I've heard sometime where someone said, "Hey, how is this different from a general purpose tool?" Right? And this is what we do, right? We This tool is not a general purpose tool, right? You won't be able to ask him about the weather or the history of I don't know, of trade. Like this is a Lean Six Sigma tool. This is an operational excellence platforms, right? And as such, we recognize that if we are doing interviews at scale, we need to keep at all time the scope. We need to confront, review alignment between stakeholders, at the same time like extracting the information, at the same time asking the question, at the same time putting the information in a format that can be displayed in our process map, and that process map has to be easily editable, right? This is our, I say, like our core competency. This is our value proposition. um and this is what makes us different from a general purpose tool.
Fantastic. As we're answering the questions here, I think that maybe if it's possible, maybe we can send people, or you can send people, kind of a pilot cookbook. Is that so? You want to pilot FAMLA? Here's a cookbook. Here, go in, do this, do that, and follow it through. A real step by step to help people navigate through, which is a very powerful tool. I have a question from Lee. Actually, two questions. So Lee, hello Lee. Lee, we've met Lee before, of course, with the International Lean Six Sigma Institute out of Cambridge, UK, and I met Joel at the latest conference, or last conference, in Jersey in the Channel Islands, which was amazing. And we're looking forward to getting together in Bratislava in Slovenia this year in September. So we'll take the liberty of including a little bit of information on that in the follow-up email to everyone that registered. Back to Lee's question. One question I get from clients is around, and I had the same question, I think we all did back in Jersey, about IT security teams. Where is
Mm,
this plot? How do I know that my information is going to be safe? And That's always a question, especially when you're bringing in third parties to help you improve an organization.
No, amazing. Um, so this is actually an opportunity to address. This is a very, very important question, right? And what we offer is that we have a menu of option. Maybe I should actually put that on screen. And actually, this menu of option are related to how we can deploy the solution, right? We go from everything from a normal SaaS deployment with really, really customs things like, private instances, um, separated databases with encrypted with the customer managed, encryption keys. Um, just to give you an example, we have at the moment, as we speak, we have a semiconductor enterprise on the platform, right? We are in the age of AI, right? And they are using this to map their R&D processes. You can imagine in the age of AI, R&D processes for a semiconductor company is one of the most precious thing out there, and they are piloting with us because we were able to demonstrate to their procurement and to their IT security team how we take care of the data, and they were kind of happy. I mean, obviously, we went through an audit and it took forever, but we were able at the end to demonstrate we passed the hurdles in terms of IP, not just security, the normal encryption or whatever, but there's also IP, like how to make sure that my data is not going to be used by whatever backend LLM provider you're using to train the next model, right? I don't think a company wants that. And so on the IP side, we have an agreement with, we have a partnership with LLM providers. And so for very strict use cases, we have a zero data retention guarantee. So we have a contract with those LLM that guarantees that legally and technically, so legally they cannot use our data. We can sue them for that, right? And technically we have accesses to endpoints that are different from the normal endpoints that public have, because we are recognized as we have a business associate agreement with them.
Okay,
So
Joe,
that's on the IP side.
what I'm hearing is you've got a lot of security in place, a lot of options. I'm just taking notes here. We'll make sure that we provide some of that information as a follow up in the email that we're going to be sending out. So far, how to access and get a free account at Famla AI, and also, as you mentioned, some exclusive credits that participants in today's webinar are going to get. RPM Academy, of course, is going to send out a coupon for a discounted monthly membership if people want to. You still need to be trained on process mapping. You can't rely on AI to do everything at this point. And even if it could do it all, I think we've got to continue to learn as fast as we can. So we'll send out some information on that. A pilot kind of cookbook, a step-by-step approach on how to run your own little pilot while you've got access, just to kick the tires on the tool and see how it works for you. You're going to send some information around your IT security, which you explained a bit. A few
Yes.
more questions. There's one about licensing and costs. Again, we'll cover that in a follow-up as to how people can get that information.
Yeah, you can go onto our website.
Yeah.
I mean, I can flash it very briefly on the.
No,
Uh,
I'm looking at the clock here, and we're ticking down.
okay.
You've got a lot of great information. I'll try and cover these questions. Um, how the Udesh is mentioning how the 2B looks like after the analysis has been done. How
So
where do you move from 2B or a current state in FAMLA to future state?
So today in Famla, we don't handle the to be as of today. This is something we could implement, not because it's difficult or whatever, but because the roadmap had so many roads that we had to make some choices, and we decided as of today not to do that. But if there was a strong demand, if there was like someone that would say, you know what, Joel, I needed to be, because in my practice, I for whatever reason I needed to be, this could something we could implement quite quickly. But as of today, we leaving the to be more to like people, just moving the boxes. They're updating the boxes by themselves. I'm just saving it under a different name.
Right.
So there's no, I mean, you want prompt to be, you will have to manually move the boxes. But if there was a demand for it, more than happy to change that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got the ability to modify the existing to be so that it does represent the future state as well.
Exactly.
John, of course, the chairman of the International Lean Six Sigma Institute is here. Um, we'll include a little bit of information on the International Lean Six Sigma Institute, including the Bratislava conference, just in case people want to learn more about ILSSI. Um, uh, John mentions value stream mapping and the ability to put in cycle times, waiting times, inventory, etc. Again, people will learn this when they play with the technology, as well as some follow-up information that you'll be providing. Lee,
Yes.
once again, asking a question he gets from Teams is, oh no, already done that one. Okay. There we go. John's put in the chat session a link to the ILSSI conference as well as their website. John Rooney's on the call today. Hi, John. Um, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I had just a quick question for you before we wrap up. Um, but maybe you've already answered it. I was just looking at it. No, actually, you know what we'll do? I think this is a great time just to wrap things up. We want to stick to the time contract. For those people that have been on the call, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. What I think we've been seeing here is not a replacement for, as Joel has mentioned, for our responsibility for those people directly involved in continuous improvement. I like to think of it like any organization is we want to free up capacity to be able to reinvest in the community. That would be a typical byline for a municipality or a healthcare organization is we want to reduce some of the administration and some of the non-value added burden and be able to refocus those resources in a more value added way. So I see the technology being able to provide us with that extra hands on deck, so to speak, to be able to get the job done, especially when it comes to current state assessment. As mentioned, we will be sending everyone a follow-up email with a lot of information. We'll try and keep it short, but we don't want to miss out in giving you something that might be of interest. As I mentioned before, you'll be able to sign up for Famla AI, kick the tires and have a look at the tool and just have a little bit of fun. If you want, you're not involved, don't want to involve your organization, take a process at home and say, listen, I'm going to map the process of doing the grocery shopping or mowing the lawn, or in Canada, unfortunately, we've been blowing the snow a lot lately, so clearing the snow. So you can, on your own, you can go through the process and see what it looks like, and it's fairly intuitive as well. I've played with it myself. The other thing that comes to mind is it's evolved so rapidly, like other AI-enabled agentic AI applications, is that it changes every month. So it's great to see that Joel and the team are continuing to add new features and functionality to what was already a very powerful tool. I really think that organizations that will thrive over the next decade, they're not just going to adopt AI, they'll integrate it thoughtfully into operational excellence. And I think it's going to be an extremely exciting and challenging time ahead. And I do see this tool playing an important role. So, any last thoughts, Joel, before we say goodbye to everyone?
No, I wanted to say thank you, Rod, for organizing the webinar, and thanks everyone for your time and the questions. And one thing to say is like, feel free. You've seen how easy it is and the time it takes to use it. We've tried to make it as simple as possible, as user friendly as possible. And yeah, feel free to try it. As Rod said, like you can try any process. I've seen people trying like pizza, trying to make a pizza or something. I mean, everything is a process, so just pick one relevant to you and and try it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for attending from all over the place, including the UK and Europe. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Be safe, and I hope you enjoy your trial run with Famla AI. Take care, everyone, and thank you for attending.